So on this week's episode of Be More Super, the podcast, we've got another great guest. This guest is from a new show on Paramount Plus called SkyMed. It's Rebecca Kwan. Rebecca, welcome to the show, my love.
Hi, Brian. Thank you so much for having me. This is so awesome.
And you know what? The show is awesome, and I've said it's full of heart and wild rides, and it certainly is. So congratulations on the release finally of the show. What's it like, everyone, family, friends, people around you, finally seeing SkyMed?
It's kind of a surreal experience. We shot it, I think, almost a year ago today, almost, I think. And just having family, friends watching it be like, I can't believe you're on this show now. I can't believe you're playing a nurse because I've always been in the arts my whole life. So it's a bit of a surreal experience, but it's a wonderful one for sure.
Definitely. And I've got to say, over the last 2 years, it's got to be quite challenging for an actor with everything that's been going on. So how have you kept positive and moving forwards during the pandemic as a working actor and as a person? How have you kept positive?
Honestly, the pandemic was such a huge shock to everyone. It
Mm.
it shook industries, it shook everything. I think the way I kept positive was leaning on friends and families, lots of Zoom parties, lots of communication over online. I think as an actress, it was definitely a change. We start doing things over Zoom as well. We did lots of self tapes, and each medium kind of has its strengths and its pros and its cons. With self taping, you kind of you kind of get more of a chance to, have more takes, to do exactly what you want, to have more fun with it. You get to bring in props, you get to bring in different costumes and stuff. Not saying that you can't do that with auditions as well, but it was just a little more, it was just a change. But remaining positive in a pandemic, it's not necessarily easy every single time, but I think it's focusing on the fun, the fun of the audition, the fact that we even still have an industry existing within a pandemic. It's such a big deal.
And did you learn any new skills over the pandemic? Because I hear stories of people baking, doing crochet. Did you find any new skills over that time?
I don't know if you know what this is, but do you know what takoyaki is?
Is cooking?
Yes, it's
Yes.
cooking. It's a Japanese kind of appetizer. It's there's like octopus pieces in like a dough ball kind of thing, and there's
Yeah.
like this really delicious sauce over it. So me and my family, we learned how to make takoyaki over the pandemic, and we learned how to cook all these dishes that we couldn't get because we couldn't go out, which was
Mm.
really fun.
That is awesome because I used to work years ago for a Japanese company here in the UK. So when the Japanese managers came over, they always, by tradition, give you a box like a gift, and it always had like octopus in and other arrangement of unusual things. So yeah, so it's fun. Octopus is lovely. It really is. So why acting? Why not? I would call a normal profession because acting is one of the most competitive out there. It really is. So why choose acting?
Honestly, it's what I've always done without even realizing that I was doing it, I think. When I was little, I used to force my dad to film these god awful skits of me just dressing up in like tutus, fairy wings, anything, top hats, suits, ties, everything. I would dress up in his clothing. I'd pretend to be him. I'd put on skits, make him shoot it, and then I'd make him watch it back with me.
Oh
And
dear.
I just loved it. I always knew that stories and even creating my own stories when I was little was something that I'd always wanted to do. I just didn't really realize that it was a job. Didn't
Mm.
realize it was a job until it was funny. I was watching Selena Gomez on Barney. I remember it clear as day. And I was like, why can't I do that? And I could do it. I know I could do it. And then it kind of just snowballed from there. Like I always knew I wanted to do something in the arts, but
Mm.
as long as it's something that I could express myself with or tells a really interesting story. And that's just always been where my heart's always been.
And of course, it's very competitive. So, how do you deal with the ups and downs? Because, as long, there's quite a few rejections, but obviously you get the parts that are fantastic, like Emma Lin in SkyMed. So, how do you deal with the ups and downs of the profession?
Well, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There's a lot of downs. But I think, like I said, the North Star to this whole thing is just remembering how much fun it is and remembering that little kid in the tutu, in the top hat, performing for my dad. And I think every single time I do a tape, that's what I try to bring into it. The fun and remembering that, like, that's why I do this, because I just like doing it. It's just fun. Of course, there's always those roles where you're like, oh, I wanted that one so bad. And of course, you get so close and your heart's just so invested in it. But then you think, you know what? It just wasn't mine.
It's true. I mean, the right role will always come to you, and I think that a lot of actors, I mean, I did acting for a while when I was younger. I did film and TV over here in the UK, and I got out of it because it was so, I felt sort of, you had to look a certain way, not the fact that you could act. It was literally the casting directors would go right down the line, and if you weren't the right size, the right height, right eye color, they'll ask you to leave. But yeah, you do get your ups and downs. But the key is being inspired when you were young. So who inspired you, to make it in the business?
Honestly, it was my cousin Karina. She was my best friend. We were pretty much like twins. We'd always expressed interest in the arts. We just never saw much representation. At the time, I think it was just Lucy Liu. I don't even think Sandra Oh was even on the scene yet, or she had just done Princess Diaries. And we'd always talked about how much we loved performing and how much we loved the arts, how much we loved storytelling. And honestly, I was kind of a pessimist. I was like, I don't know if we could do this. There's not a lot of us who are Asian in the industry, and never mind women. I don't know if we could do this. And she would always be like, no, but we could be the first to do it. We could do it. And she was the more optimistic one out of the two of us. And she kind of just drove me continuously to keep trying to go for my dreams and to keep living the things that we've always yearned for and that we've wanted.
I mean, what do you think the industry could change then? Because you're talking about representation, and I completely agree that it's shocking that the industry is still, unfortunately led by quite opinionated men in suits and big chairs still. I mean, what can Hollywood do and the industry do to change, the way things are at the moment?
Listen, I absolutely agree. I think it's interesting. It's an interesting time that we're living in because you're seeing so much more representation. You're seeing Michelle Yeoh in like the blockbuster hit now. It's an amazing film. Please go see it. You're seeing Crazy Rich Asians. You're seeing just so much like trans, LBGT, all of it now. I would say the real change comes from having people who are minorities or from a smaller group of that hasn't really had that much of a voice, and us producing that work ourselves and being in charge of those stories, because I think that's how you get the most truthful dialogue, and that's how you continuously keep getting, I guess, the train moving with all that stuff. So I'd say people who are minorities to create your own work and to keep pushing for it. That's what I would say.
And it's really nice so you can inspire, young people as well, because when you say representation, again, I think it's shocking because, I've got two little girls and I'm bringing them up the best I can to not be judgmental, not be, not, if they want to grow up and be a unicorn, as long as they're happy. And I think that's the key, is to be happy. And representation on screen, more the merrier. It shouldn't be an issue. So hopefully, fingers crossed, in the future, we will have more. We will, and it's slowly moving, which is nice. It's nice to see. So I read somewhere that you spent a year in LA, following your dream. Is LA paved with gold, as people say, or is LA a scary place?
Whew. I think as a Canadian being in LA, it's a bit of a scarier place. But I had the funnest time. I had the best time because I think I was 22 at the time. And I'd gone through this whole like quarter life crisis of I'd stayed in Canada my whole life. And I was like, you know what? Me and my girlfriend at the time, we just wanted to explore new horizons. We just wanted to see if LA was somewhere we wanted to end up because of acting ultimately. And we went there and we just talked to everyone. The best thing about LA people is that they actually talk to you. I lived in Vancouver for a long time as well, and I found that Vancouver people were kind of a little more shut down, or a little more just to themselves, I would say. But in LA, you could talk to anyone and you can make friends on the street who just so happens to know all these other people. And then suddenly you're at like a post-Oscar party at Soho House. And then all of a sudden you're like, this is like the epitome of the LA experience.
So would you say it's more about networking then? Because I'm literally amazed that people still go to LA because everything gets made in either Vancouver or Toronto. It's crazy, but yet, people go to LA. Is that because that's where they do the most casting, or is that where the studios are? Because they're all getting filmed, as I said earlier, in Vancouver and Toronto.
Yeah, truthfully, I think because a lot of American projects come to Canada with like the whole tax break and stuff like that. It's a lot cheaper to produce and shoot here. But I do think a lot of the more, like there's a lot of high quality projects that just shoot in LA because that's where it's written. That's just how it is, I guess. So I think in that sense, LA's worthwhile to check out projects wise if you could get the whole visa and O1 deal. It's very messy as a Canadian actor trying to get over there.
Well, we have lots of Brits, so it can't be that difficult, surely, because at the moment America's being taken over by the Brits, and what annoys me is that there's so many great Canadian actors that I've spoken to in the past that say that it's shocking on how they don't get the chance to get to play these leads because they'd rather have, American leads, but yet they film in Canada, which I think is a bit of a wrong un. But let's talk about SkyMed, because literally it's one of the best shows I've seen this year. It really, really is. So if you could tell the lovely viewers and listeners a bit about the show and who you play.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, just thank you for saying that. That's so sweet. We've put our heart. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I play Emma Lin. She's an ER nurse who originally worked at St. Mike's in Toronto, and she comes up north to kind of try to figure out who she is, to rack up hours and money for a wedding. And she kind of encounters all these different kind of speed bumps and issues along the way that helps her grow into the person that she ultimately wants to be. And without spoiling it too much, because I don't want to spoil the whole arc of her story, but it's a very unexpected kind of thing that she just, she's always had a plan for her life. She's always wanted to be a nurse. She's always wanted all these things for herself, and she has them until she realizes that she kind of doesn't want them anymore because of the experiences that she's had in Manitoba.
Do you know what? I've got to say, your character definitely takes us on a journey, again, without spoiling anything, where I just want you to, your character, I don't want to spoil it. I just want all the best for your character. I feel for her so much. I really, really do. The writing on this show is absolutely superb because it's 9 episodes long, but yet you get so much in those 9 episodes, and literally they get you hooked straight away. So when you first received the script for the job, what were your thoughts on your character and the writing in general?
I loved Emma right away just because she was so bubbly. Like, she gets so excited over a magazine, which is something super uncommon nowadays. Like, a lot of physical print is just not existent anymore. But she's so excited, and she's just so outgoing and girly. And personally, I have moments of girliness and stuff like that and where I'm bubbly, but Emma's just bubbly all the time. And I just had the best time doing the audition because I was like, how do I squeal out of excitement for a magazine? This is so random, but this is so great because I love that she gets excited about every little thing. And I don't know, I just had the best time. Like, it was so out of my comfort zone because I've never thought about being in the medical field ever. And I was like, this is cool. This is exploring something completely out of my comfort zone, out of my train of thought, even, to be honest.
So you play a nurse, and you're probably going to guess what I'm going to ask, but your background training, did they take you on like a mini boot camp? Did you have to work side by side with people in the industry to give it that authentic feel that we see on screen?
Yeah, so we did ATV training. We did a couple days of medical training. And we also had a lovely man named Medical Steve. He was our on-set ER guy who just made sure that everything was authentic and that everything was done properly. So it was extremely natural and real, and people watching who are nurses and who are doctors, they're not kind of questioning what we're doing. But yeah, we definitely did medical training.
And of course you get the job, you book the gig, and then they all bundle you. I saw a picture just here onto a plane together. What was that experience like? Because obviously within COVID times, I see you all with masks. So I presume being all together must have been an exciting experience.
Yeah, honestly, that was the most social interaction I've had in real life in the longest time. But we all made sure that, we all got tested before we all saw each other. And, we, I think the caption on this was that, like, she threw us onto a plane and then we bonded and it worked. And that's honestly the truth. I didn't expect to be thrown into a plane that fast, I guess, but it was so fun. There was so much adrenaline that day because the plane was tiny and we'd all just met each other. Truthfully, it was the first day we'd all met each other. And we sat there and I was kind of getting anxious, but our Haley, Natasha, she just reached for my hand and just held my hand the whole time. And I was like, wow, this is so sweet. Like, I barely know any of these people, but they're also supportive and they're also encouraging and happy. And we were just stoked to be on the plane, truthfully. The views were great from the plane.
Well, as long as they're throwing you onto the plane and not out of the plane, I suppose that's good. That is good. You don't get to the location and they throw you out and say, right, you've got to survive for the next week. But let's talk about locations, because is it as angelic as we see on screen where you're filming? Because I've never been to Canada and I've always wanted to, but I'm always scared of dangerous things like bears, spiders, snakes, basically everything, my own shadow. But how beautiful was it, and how good was the experience? Because I can imagine it gets very cold, but the scenery looks amazing.
Honestly, we shot all through the winter. So we went from August until January. And they call it Wintertoba for a reason. It is the coldest weather I have ever experienced in my life. Of course, the views are beautiful and some of the scenery was great from the plane looking down. But honestly, it was freezing and it was kind of really difficult to enjoy the scenery when, I don't know if you saw as well, but for survival training, that episode, I think it was 5, we're barely wearing winter jackets. And it's like -35. I think even it was -40 one day. Wow. So as beautiful as it was just so cold. It was just so cold.
The struggles as an actor to give us this amazing shows. So as long as you've still got all your toes, that's all what matters. But the cast seem very close, and this show is full of drama and laughs and romance and everything all in one. What was it like off camera? Was it as dramatic, or did you all get on? I mean, from August to January, you're probably inside each other's pockets all the time.
Yeah, so the best thing is that Vanessa and Julie, the creators and the writers, they set us up in this apartment building. So we were all together all the time. We made this joke that it almost felt like we were in college again, and it was just like a college dormitory. So every time, after set, we would just go to each other's places. We would hang out and we would play games. We would listen to music. We would just bond. And it was so nice because we all bonded right away. It was the nicest experience I've ever had. I love all of them so much. They're all such unique, amazing people. And I'm not just saying that, I swear, we're all actually very, very close. Like anytime anyone had like a bad day or something, we'd be there in a second. And they're just incredible people. I really couldn't have asked for more.
Mm. I mean, what's been your favorite scene to shoot, this season?
Oh my gosh, that's such a difficult question, Brian.
Without spoiling it. Well, to be honest, I mean, if they haven't seen it already, they need to be having words for themselves, because it's a great show. They should see it. So it's their own fault.
It's true. I think my favorite scenes to shoot were the wolf scene. I mean, he was, oh my God, the sweetest dog ever. So it was actually half husky, half an actual wolf. So like it was a mixture of two different breeds. But the whole time we had to try to make it look angry and ferocious, but it kept wagging its tail. It kept smiling and wanting to lick everyone. And I was like, we need to work on this a little bit. But definitely the wolf scene. And I think the bachelorette scene, it was just so much fun. We were just dancing and we just like had a bunch of phallic things all over us, and it was great.
That bar is fantastic. You don't get bars like that in the UK, I've got to say. Was that a real bar, or was that a staged thing?
So it was actually a stage. The Whiskey Hatch was just put together by the props and the set designers, but you're right, it's such an amazing bar. I was like, I want to go to the Whiskey Hatch in real life because it's so awesome. But
I mean, have you kept anything from the show? Have you liberated any outfits or anything from the show?
So I got to keep Emma's earrings. She always wore these like flat rose gold studs, which was really nice. I also they let me keep one of Emma's bras from when she cooked the chopper. So I got to keep that. So it always makes me laugh when I see the earrings or when I see, her bra and stuff. I'm like, this is kind of odd, but it was nice that I got to keep it, I guess.
Well, talking about Chopper, that's the wonderful Praneet. He's going to be on the show on Friday. So I wanted to know if you had any gossip about him, any funny stories that I could possibly, I don't know, wind him up about.
Oh, God, yeah. First of all, I just want to say that I absolutely adore Praneet. You're going to have the best time with him tomorrow. But he truly is Chopper. You watch the show and you know Chopper and you see how he talks and how he jokes and just his mannerisms. That's Praneet to a T. It's hilarious. There's no one more suited for the role than Praneet. But I'm going to embarrass him a little bit because as one of his best friends, I think. He has this weird fear of grasshoppers. And in Manitoba, we were there in the summer, there was just this grassy cornfield that we were, I guess our circus was set in. So all of our trailers just were placed right beside this cornfield. And anytime we'd be walking back to our trailers, these huge grasshoppers would just jump out at him, and he would, I love you, Praneet, I'm sorry. But he would scream and he would swat them and he would make this huge fuss about them. And it was just so funny because he's so cool and he's so serious and he's so smart and just has it together all the time. And seeing him kind of in a frenzy, it's just the funniest.
Do you know what? It happens to the best of us. I've got a fear of glitter. So if you can imagine having two small girls, literally the house is like a minefield all the time. But I'm glad you said that, because what I'm going to do, I'm just going to randomly put up a picture of a grasshopper on the screen.
Oh my God. I am so sorry, Praneet.
and literally see if he guesses why. And then I will tell him at the end, because it will be a funny reaction. I want to see it. So yeah, we won't. Well, he won't see this because this is coming out on Sunday, so he won't see this in time to know about the joke. So we'll see how he reacts to that. So obviously we've had the first season. It's on Paramount Plus. Is there any news of a second season? Because literally the show does leave you wanting more. You know, you're invested in those characters, you love those characters, and you want to know where their journey goes from the end. So is there any rumours of a season 2?
I mean, yes, there is a rumor of a season 2, but honestly, Brian, I know as much as you do, and
get out of it. No, you don't. You know. These NDAs tell you you're not allowed to say in interviews if there's a season 2. So, blink 1 for yes, 2 for no. She blinked once. There we go.
Being completely honest, we have no word on a season 2 yet, but we're super hopeful and it's super promising. That's all I know.
Because it's really annoying when you get into a show and literally you just want more, and then they just cancel it, and you just think, why? And the writing in this by, I think her name's Julie, that started the show, literally has done such a good job. I can see this going on for many seasons, because you know it's full on. Literally, there's not a point where you get bored, and the characters in this show are just hilarious and just well thought out. It really, really is. So it's been great chatting with you, and I cannot wait to get everyone to watch this show, and also look forward to season 2. But I wanted to ask you about Cascadia, because I've seen that online, and I'll be honest, I haven't had time to listen to it, but I will do, because I've read what it's about, and it sounds awesome. If you could tell people what Cascadia is, which is a podcast.
Absolutely. So Cascadia is a 3D audio story about, these deep sea divers that go on this huge adventure and encountered this huge, very terrifying sea monster and a bunch of different adventures and aliens and all these crazy, violent stories almost come out of it. They almost decide at the end. There's so much backstabbing. There's so much betrayal in it as well. But it honestly is an adventure for the listeners. Even for me, even getting the script and reading it, I was like, this is an insane story. But yeah, we shot that right before the pandemic. So I honestly loved shooting that project. It was so much fun. But yeah, go listen to it. It's on Spotify. We've charted #1 in the States, I think it was almost 2 weeks in a row. No, it was a time. Yeah, for a long time. But it's a crazy adventure. You feel so immersed in it because of all the sounds. And my friend Adam wrote, produced the whole 9 yards, all of it. And it's an amazing story. It's great.
Awesome. And what's next for you? What are you working on at the moment? Or is it a case of putting your feet up and enjoying the SkyMed, sort of experience with family and friends?
So at the moment, I'm currently in pre-production for one of my first films that I'm also writing. I currently founded and am the president of my production company, See On Entertainment, and it's actually a story and a film about my grandmother and grief. Yeah, so I'm
Wow.
excited to get going on that, but right now we're just in the pre-production phase. But
And
it's gonna be wonderful.
and how stressful is it to not only write but obviously to make this movie, especially as it's obviously very close to you, opposed to just being in a film? I mean, how stressful is it? I mean, is it going okay? I mean,
Honestly, it's definitely a lot of work, but it's a passion project of mine that I've kind of imagined in my head for years. I've always known that this was going to be the first film that I was going to do. And because it's such a passion project, there's so much love in it. And it almost feels as if all the work and all the effort and all the sourcing and funding and all that stuff, it feels fun to me in a certain way. But it's definitely stressful. I'm not going to lie to you.
And have we got a working title for it so the fans can keep an eye out, or is it a case of just get onto your social media, follow you, and we'll find out in the future?
Yeah, so right now there's no title on it. I really wanted it to be very special because of the subject matter and because of all the stories that are involved in it. But right now it's untitled. So people just have to follow along and see how it goes.
And how can people follow you on social media?
Oh, yes, the plug. Okay, so on Instagram, I'm at Rebecca.Kwan. And on Twitter, I'm at Rebecca Kwan. And then there's like an underscore because someone took the original Rebecca Kwan.
What? That's it.
I know.
Everyone get to the original Rebecca Kwan, and tell her to give it back. How dare she? Who does she think she is?
Yes.
But
Yeah.
but you've been a great guest. It's been lovely to talk to you, and once again, congratulations on the show. I've got to say, it's been very refreshing over the past couple of weeks watching it and getting my mind off things and escaping in the wonderful stories on screen. And I can't wait. I think I've got Thomas on the show as well. So hopefully I am slowly going through the cast one by one, and you're my first. So thank you for coming on.
I'm so honored that I'm first, and honestly, I'm so glad that you loved it so much and that it's a great distraction. You're gonna have the best time with Tommy and Praneet. Tell them I say hi. I miss them.
Well, I will do. I will do. Thank you so much for coming on. Keep safe and stay super.
Thank you so much, Brian.